Warning: the first half of this story is loosely based on a true story. Names were changed to protect the identity of those involved. May contain mature context some people may find disturbing. It's Friday, August 13th, 1918. The moon was full, big, and so bright she didn't need the lantern for her nightly walk. The air was cool on her face. It felt nice against the hot tears that stung her eyes and wet her cheeks. Her name was Jane Lead. Her close friends and family called her Mother or Mama Lead. When she was a little girl, everyone called her Janie or Baby Jane, but that was a lifetime ago. Now, she's 35 years old. Gone are the carefree days of her childhood. No more climbing trees, chasing fireflies, or getting dirty just because she could. She was so energetic as a child, but unfortunately that disappeared, too. In exchange was nothing but tiredness, body aches, hopelessness, and frustration. Sadly, she had to stop being a carefree child at the tender age of 15. Her father lost all their money due to a fire that broke out at his place of business, the Canadian Car and Foundry Works in Kingsland, New Jersey. It burned to the ground. Thankfully, nobody died, but her family lost everything. Her mother decided that it would be best for the family if Jane got married into power and wealth. She begged and pleaded for her parents to change their minds to no avail. Gone were her dreams to become a hello girl, replaced with her reality of becoming someone's wife. She was to wed her father's old business partner's son, John. It's not that she didn't care for him. They've been friends since birth. It's just that she was still a child and wanted to act as such. The wedding was the following summer. After the summer of 1918, she was no longer Baby Jane. She was someone's wife, and eventually she would become someone's mother, and dare she think it, a grandmother. The tears started flowing again, making her lips taste of salt water. She didn't even realize she was rubbing her swollen belly and silently, but regretfully, resenting, borderline hating her husband. He got her into this mess but wouldn't help her get out of it. In one single night, he ruined her life, threw away any future they had planned for their kids, and silently had the whole town of Pine Barrens, New Jersey gossiping about her. She heard the whispers as she walked by, people calling her unlucky, a witch, a whore. Some even suggested that she made a deal with the devil. Unlucky, yeah, very unlucky, she thought as she started to cry again. 13, 13, 13, her voice screamed in her head. You're about to have number 13. I can barely handle 12 kids. Now I'm about to have 13. She depressingly thought to herself as she made her way back home to the 4-bedroom cottage her husband built for them 2 years after they got married. As soon as she walked through the front door, John was out of his seat and trying to help her to a chair. The whole time he had on this dopey smile. God, how she wished she could just smack it off his face, but she didn't dare. What the hell are you smiling about? She asked him. Just taking in your beauty, my dear, he responded while rubbing her belly. Please don't, just stop touching me, she replied. John, you know I love you, but this is too much. I curse you and this baby. As soon as she uttered the last 6 words, she felt massive pain in her throat, belly, and chest, like someone poured hot melted iron down her throat. She felt it spread to her stomach. All she could think about was the last 6 words she said, and she prayed her baby would be okay. She glanced down and seen blood start to flow down her legs. John ushered their 12 kids outside, telling the oldest 2 to run and fetch the midwife, and the other 10 to go to the neighbor's house. He ran back inside to help his wife. 15 minutes later, the midwife shows up. Jane is slipping in and out of consciousness. Before she slipped out of it again, she noticed the panicked look on John's face and the ashen look on the face of the midwife. When Jane came to again, she heard the midwife yelling at her to push. Instinctively she did. Good Jane, come on, one more big push, the midwife yelled. No sooner did she push the baby out, she slipped back out of consciousness. She came to 20 minutes later. She lost a lot of blood, and her entire self looked like she had a bad battle with a sickness and was about to lose. How's my baby? She asked the midwife, as the midwife placed the baby boy onto Jane's chest. Jane couldn't get over the fact that he was the spitting image of John. They both had the greenest eyes she's ever seen, and hair as dark as a starless night. He was sleeping and his tiny little doll-like lips were pursed into a little kiss. Jane felt guilt for cursing this precious baby, as the midwife exclaimed, "He's perf, oh my gosh, what in God's name?" As Jane continued to hold on to the baby, she let out a tiny yell, which made John look over. Jane, John, and the midwife all watch on in horror as the greenest eyes changed to a crimson red. Gone was the starless night hair replaced with a set of curled horns. The doll-like lips exchanged for a thinned-out smile, pointed teeth, and a split tongue. All three watched on in terror as the once precious baby turned into a demon. He kept growing bigger. Leathery bat-like wings sprouted out of his back. His tiny body contorted into the body of a wyvern. Hoofs replaced his small feet. Claws were now his hands. Jane didn't want to, but she did. She looked back up at the once perfect little baby, who was now 9 feet tall, and what she seen made her faint. The head looked like that of a goat. John backed up. The midwife screamed and ran out the door. The thing let out a blood-curdling yell and flew after the midwife, who didn't make it very far. She fell face first onto the ground. Heart attack. She died before her body even hit the dirt. "No way, Link, I call a bluff," Kai said. "So, what do they call this supposed creature, and where does it supposedly live?" Link was wearing his signature smartass grin as he looked around at his old college friends. All of them were sitting around the campfire on the edge of their seats, waiting for him to finish his campfire story. "Yeah," Emily shouted, "does this thing have a name?" Kai, Emily, Claire, Slevin, Malachi, and Elysium all leaned in towards Link as to hear him. "They call it the Jersey Devil and he lives in the Pine Barren Forest," Link whispered. "Oh my god," there was a lot of laughter. Everyone said in unison, "You expect us to believe that? Isn't this campground located in the Pine Barren Forest?" Kai asked. "Now I really call this bluff." Link tried to explain to them that it was all true, but they would not listen. In the end, all he could do was shake his head. He grew up in Pine Barren. He has seen the mutilated animals, heard the stories, and even seen the damn thing for himself when he was a teen. They locked eyes, had a staring contest for the longest 26 seconds of his life. Then it just flew away. That thing didn't look as scary as everyone made it out to be. If anything, it looked kind of sad. He felt really stupid for picking this place to camp the weekend in. But nothing's happened in 15 plus years. No animals dying, no sightings, nothing. So, everything should be okay, right? "Alright guys, I'm heading to bed." Slevin yawned sleepily, cutting through Link's thoughts. "Good night, all." Everyone started gathering up their things and headed to their tents. Malachi, Slevin, and Elysium stayed in one tent because they just wanted to sleep, and the others stayed in the other tent so they can stay up and talk. The group of 3 fell asleep almost immediately. The rest decided to get the last 3 six-packs and bet on who could last all night without falling asleep. I couldn't ask for a better last hurrah, you guys. I just want to say I love you all and I can't wait to get married. Just think this time next week I'll be someone's wife. Hold on, I got to go dress for dinner. Emily giggled loudly and drunkenly as she stood up to exit the tent. Where did she learn that stupid phrase from? Why doesn't she just say she has to pee? What the actual hell? Emily muttered under her breath as she stood at the front of the tent. What is that thing? There was an animal or something stalking the other tent. Unsure of what to do, Emily quietly turned around, her face full of confusion and fear, and just looked at Link with the most scared eyes he has ever seen. It took, she tried to choke out the words, but the tears wouldn't stop and she started sobbing so hard she was hiccuping. It took the whole fucking tent and flew away. Emily was finally able to yell out. Everyone ran out of the tent in time to look up and see a creature with bat-like wings flying away with the tent that held their friends. The creature was huge, with hoofs, claws, and a goat-like face. When they were able to tear their stare away from that thing and focus on the tent, they could see movement coming from it. Link noticed it first. Someone opened the tent flap and appeared out. Link couldn't make out who it was, but the creature jerked, and all Link could do was scream as he watched one of his friends fall out and plunge back down to the earth. Whoever it was landed with a sickly thud. Everyone heard it. They all ran to see who it was. When they finally made it to that spot, they seen Elysium laying on a sharp rock which impaled her through her head. Blood trickled down the one side of her neck, her eyes frozen open with an accusatory look directed right at Link. Link did the only thing he could do now and closed her eyes. No more long walks on the beach, late night strolls through the park. Shit, no more anything. Elysium would never wake up with that mischievous twinkle in her eyes, because that thing decided it was time to come out of hiding and start up its spree again. The friends looked towards the sky again, but this time the tent and the creature were gone. They looked all over the woods for the rest of the night and most of the morning but found nothing. Maybe we should go to the authorities and ask them for help, Claire said, feeling lost and helpless. They would have to help, right? That was over a week ago. When the authorities went to go retrieve Elysium's body, it was there, but her head was gone. They never really found the bodies of Slevin or Malachi. Well, they never found their entire bodies. They found a torso, 2 left feet, a right foot, and a crushed skull that was so badly broken they couldn't tell who it belonged to. As for Link and the others, it's hard to say if they'll ever be okay again. Just because they didn't die that night doesn't mean their lives aren't over as well. Thank you to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Tacy, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I look forward to making more content for everyone.